Hello everybody, welcome back as ever to Building Blocks, where we program Minecraft mods live on stream and pay no attention to the weird message before the intro video. As per usual, we're going to be working on some mods today. We're going to be working on various equipment, which is the child mods, I guess would be the best way to describe it, of various oddities. It features adding a whole bunch of devices and tools and such to really expand your gameplay visually, for the most part, as well as mechanically, because the oddities can be quite dangerous, because they are way more diverse than vanilla Minecraft mobs are. And last week, we were working on adding a bunch of new stuffs under the alchemy branch of things, which is accessed via a mixer, a centrifuge, and then a limbic, which we can see all around here. And we added a couple new items. So let's see, we added, so we had bat guano for a while. We used milk fat for something, finally. Where is it? Where am I looking here? Yes. We have salt. We also had brimstone. We have added... Where is it gone? It's buried somewhere in here. I know that much. But I'm apparently completely blind because I'm having trouble seeing it. We made flash pellets. Remember those. Those basically daze you for a hot second, but it's a very short duration. We also made vials of acid, because of course that's going to exist. Here we go. We have bright burn powder, which is basically magnesium. I probably should have guessed it was the untextured item. So we made this, which also comes from the same place as salt, by centrifuging buckets of water. We also have... Is there anything else in here that's actually something? Yeah, not really. Let's see. The vial of acid is very dangerous. Suffice it to say, it only stacks to 1, so you can't really spam it on anything, and it does a medium amount of damage, but the main danger is that it also causes additional damage to anything you are holding and anything you are wearing. So it wears down weapons and armor really quickly compared to actually attacking people, and you can do it at range. It's also AoE, so it will do more to the person you hit in the face with it, but it will also damage people around them. So it's rough. Also, you can dispenser this, so this is really handy if you want to start making traps. It probably won't kill someone outright. It'll take about a dozen direct-to-the-face hits to get rid of most armors, but it is rough. It is dangerous. And I'm gonna get rid of my effects here, just so we have more screen to play with. There we are. Now everything's on one page. Let's see. We added bright burn powder. I feel like we added something else, but it's not popping into my head. Nope, I got nothing. Milk fat finally found a use in the making of our actual... Where is it? There it is. In the making of our actual flash pellets. I don't recall if we added... Yeah, we haven't added the recipe yet to actually turn this into a flash pellet, but I feel like sticking it in an oven when it's made significantly out of magnesium is maybe not the smartest of ideas. Just as just as a thought. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what'll be happening with that, but for right now, there it is as a solution. And let me see. That was more or less it. What we majorly did was get all of this written out. This is everything that is left to do before this version of Various Equipment can ship. Various Oddities itself is ready to ship. It's just having a little problem with the build Grail that I will probably have to beseech the devs for to figure out. But this is all that we have to do to get Various Equipment up to speed to make it still useful. And we're going to start with something simple by adding shuriken. These are small throwable objects, effectively. We already have needles, bone and iron, and you can use those. They're better if you actually use them through a blowpipe. Then they become more or less a low-grade bow, but you can put you can easily make tipped arrows effectively with it. It's very nice. But what we're looking for is shuriken. These are a legit actual thrown weapon, not too much unlike, say, a snowball, except actually dealing damage and with a small chance to actually be able to pick them up. About 50-50 chance if they hit something else. So yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today to further expand our options when it comes to combat, because it is a big deal for various equipment to try and make combat more diverse, because in Minecraft it is basically always a slap fight. Even at extremely high tiers, it is basically just two people trying to get close enough to have a slap fight. That is it. Kinda sucks that way. Used to be you at least, like, carried a bucket of lava to drop at people's feet, but now you don't really even see that too much anymore either. It's really kinda dumb. So, hence, we have weapons with faster attack speed but lower reach distance, and weapons with much longer reach distance and whatnot, but just, yeah. We also have the short bow that does less damage, but is also faster to draw than a regular bow. Anyways, I digress. We are starting with shuriken. We do have one possible concern, if I can find it, there they are, which is this recipe for caltrops. Because this is more or less, I imagine, what we're going to be making the recipe for shuriken to be. So it might just be we end up using just 4 pieces, so then it's not just a rotated version, I guess. Something to bear in mind. But once we've done that, we're going to be spending a lot of today working on wagons, which have a lot of details that we need to fix up. They're not perfect right now, far from it, and they need some improvement. So we're going to be dealing with that. Otherwise, I think wagons are coming along quite nicely. Wagons are born out of my belief that horses in Minecraft are basically obsolete. It is basically pointless to have a horse, honestly, even before you get elytra. So I'm trying to give... Firstly, wagons are a quintessential fantasy trope. Like, you generally speaking, you see an adventuring party on the road, they're not all riding horses, they're not all flying through the sky unless they have an airship. They're, generally speaking, all rocking up inside of a wagon, much like this. So, yeah. Also, I think if we give this thing enough storage space, it will actually make horses and other mounted animals actually relevant again, so you can actually see a reason to having them in the first place. Because they can pull these things, and then you can use these things to carry a whole ton of stuff. Like, multiple player inventories worth of stuff. So, that is the plan. But anyways, shuriken. Let's start with that. It's fairly straightforward, it's fairly simple. We are just going to add shuriken. And if we add check snowball item, we will see most of the details that we actually need to care about. Very straightforward, you right click and it spawns an entity, off you go. Bob's your uncle, as it were. So, we're looking for item shuriken. There is the question of whether I make this actually be enchantable. I don't think we will. Flaming shurikens, icy shurikens, that kind of thing. I'm making a plural there that's already there. Flaming or icy shuriken. There is no S in shuriken. Well, at the end of shurikens, at least. Like, yeah. We're doing that all night, I'm sure. Is an interesting idea. Certainly has a cool visual to it, but for the most part, I think if we make a fast attacking object that can be enchanted, it's going to be ridiculous, almost no matter what equipment we put, almost no matter what enchantment we put on it. So, yeah, we're probably going to be avoiding that. I still don't have my suggestions up in here, do I? Okay. Let's see. Sets max stack, I think it is. No. Do you have a suggestion on what I should make it? No. What is it? Max stack size. There you are. I really need to find an hour or two to sit down and just actually figure out what's going wrong with that. Again, this is basically what we need right there. We could almost be just extending out of snowball item, except that it would spawn a snowball. Which would be, not what we're looking for. Okay. It'd be nice if Snowball Item just had a field that generated the entity, so we could extend from Snowball Item and just override that function. But but there's a... Were snowballs added before eggs? No, eggs just completely replicate everything that snowballs do. Those are basically the only lines that differ. And I guess the sound. Although actually I think snowballs use the same entity snowball throw, entity egg throw. I presume that differs purely by the subtitle, then. Huh. Weird. Very weird. Right, well I'm going to think ahead a little bit. And I'm guessing the function it's calling here is related to projectile entity. Yep. I'm going to do world kind of player as well. There. So now I can say get throw sound, and I can say make projectile. And I can just make a projectile entity. But there is no set item, but that's fine. We can just stick that in here. What this will just do is make it much easier for me to create other throwable objects, because I believe I have something like that already. In the form of vials, because there is item vial throwable, which is a little bit more complicated, but should be fine. Yeah, because this does all of that, whereas bleh. But most of this is just identically the same, effectively. So let's make this abstract item throwable. Okay. All of that, very straightforward. I presume there's some value to these, but heck if it'll tell me what they are. Okay, so there's inaccuracy and velocity, which are passed in there and there. Okay. So, I can either make those fields that are populated when this thing is instantiated, or I can make them... I can just make them some... what's the phrase here? Or I can make them methods that you can retrieve with. Meaning that we can have it change if there's a different, if there are certain enchantments. Maybe you have a homing one, I don't know. I think we'll just make them methods for right now. So, private file floats, inaccuracy, and velocity. last two that these go in. Do I have that correct in which order they go in? What's the last one? Last one is inaccuracy, so I have that backwards. Okay. Let's call this abstract throwable. Just so it's clear what we're looking at here. Hey, Ispa. How you doing? Okay. And then from that, I can make Titan Shuriken properly. Perfect. So, now if I create that item, the only thing it'll do, initially at least, is just hurl a snowball, because that's all the item shuriken has been told to do. But we can be changing that fairly soon. And I'm just going to set the max stack size to 6. Anything that is rapid fire, effectively, should ideally never stack very highly. Essentially, the faster you fire, the more frequently you have to reload, is more or less the way it should be. Bows are like the antithesis of a shuriken, effectively, because it takes forever to drill them to a decent, like, actual damaging point and then release them and you do it again and sink it. Whereas these are high speed. You can chuck a whole, like, 16 eggs really, really quickly, and if they actually hurt somebody, that's a lot of damage ticks. So, like, even if you're not actually doing very much damage, you're taking away their health and their armor very quickly. So, you ideally want to make it that things that do actual damage are relatively small stack size. But okay, we just need to add the lang for this, so that we know what it actually is. I could call it a throwing star or something else, but these days everybody knows what a shuriken is. Shuriken is not a word that appears in like European Middle Ages at all, but it's the name of the thing. If you're going to be making the thing, then call it the thing. Don't call it something like throwing star, which is culturally appropriative, I guess. You might as well use the actual name. Also, it's very warm here in the UK right now, and I am joined by a very unfortunately warm shark. Actually, how warm is it right now at this exact moment whilst I have 3 studio lights on me, plus a fan. It's mid-setting. It is currently ranking in at 20 degrees, down from 24 earlier. So that's something. But also, there's just so much on me right now. Okay. So there's our shurikens. We can stack them up to 6. I'm going to be going back and forth calling them shuriken and shurikens all night. I know it, but still. And if I right-click, it should just... yeah. Just shoots... Just chucks a, well, it's a snowball. It just looks like something else. I think its speed needs to be higher, given what it is. Thankfully, I already added handling for that. I will also just actually quickly give it an item model. Not a texture, just a model. That'll do. Do we want to be throwing notepads all night? We might as well. It'll be funny, if nothing else. Just drag this over there so I don't forget it. And okay. So... inaccuracy was a default of 1.5. I think that's fine. And we'll make the speed be like 1.5 as well. I'll make him 50% faster, which will also increase the range, but they're still going to hit the ground eventually. Eventually. Just quickly reboot that so it knows about the model. Okay, so now our shuriken look like notepads. And they also have significantly increased speed. Now what we can do to limit them a little bit more is actually give them a cooldown. Eggs and snowballs don't really do that. If we grab those, you can see we can just... yeah, like... This would really suck if you had an... Granted, this is only to like 16. This is 6. But it'd really suck to be hit basically constantly by somebody with snowballs. The knockback alone would be such a pain in the neck. So let's go to our abstract throwable. We're going to have a boolean in here. Insert that into here. We're going to say false by default, but we will be saying that to true for our shuriken. And thank you for the sippy aloca. Good to see you around. Hope you all enjoyed the little teaser. That is the penultimate teaser. We are running out of time here, aren't we? Oh. I need to remember where cooldown happens here. What's a good example? Sword item is a good example of a cooldown. Tiered item? Tool item? This will be hard to find. Miss Teaser will have to check later for it. Well, the preceding one should be out on YouTube now. Lurk because I got 2 jobs today, but it's a good Santa vibe too. That is fair. That is fair. Oh, wait. Let's see. Item... Halberd? Glaive? Is that it? Yes. Forgetting what my own thing is. Is just part of sword item. Okay. speed it's based on? No. I can't remember what the thing is. This is gonna bug me. XP cooldown tracker. Where does that get called? Items. Ender pearl item. Set cooldown. There you go. Okay. So 20 ticks is a second. We could change this to be an integer value, and then we could change exactly how long it's on cooldown, so it might not need to be a full 20. But it nonetheless gives us the option to actually set these things to go on cooldown. There. There's a thought. Did I do that for vials when they're thrown? Vials mostly stacked like 1, so that's not a huge... No, I did not. Okay. Something to be concerned about, maybe. Vials don't stack very much. So it's probably fine, but that's maybe a thing we should consider whilst we're working on this. So right now we are just working on the actual item, not the entity. The entity is still a snowball. It's a snowball that looks like a notepad, but is actually a shuriken. Okay, so that is the cooldown in effect. Fun fact, the knockback of snowballs and the fact that you can spam them like this does mean that they occasionally show up in reasonably high-level Minecraft combat. Because you can just knock somebody off a ledge with them, or at the very least you can keep them back whilst you're healing up. It's like, it is a major and very significant consideration. Snowball that looks like a notepad that is actually a shuriken is just my gender today. That is fair. That is fair. Okay. I think we are going to change this to an integer. And we're just going to set that by default to -1. Greater than 0. Cooldown. Okay, so now we can say a half a second, a quarter second. One way or the other, this will be slower than using a snowball, but snowballs don't do damage. These do. These go ouchie ouch. It'd be interesting if if a shuriken could hit somebody, bounce off, stick in the ground, and then walk on it was effectively like a caltrop, but that's maybe too much bang for your buck, I feel. Yeah, that feels a bit more right. Whereas this feels like a machine gun. Not literally, but it feels way too fast. Like, just... Like, this feels a bit more like you're going, meh, 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 meh. Okay. Now we need to actually give these things an entity of their own, not just a snowball. So, we are going to need entity shuriken, which we can probably mostly borrow from snowball entity, just to get us started at least. Okay, so there's there's all of these different things that are very interesting and simple on impact of an entity, on hitting anything. In this case, for the Shuriken Wave 1, there's a 50-50 chance that it will hit something that isn't a person, and then there'll be a 50-50 chance that it drops as an entity again. Or as an item, rather. Then there's the making of the snowball particles, which we don't much care about too much. But yeah, straightforwards, really. I think we can actually just change this to projectile item entity outright. So our default item is the shuriken. Which again, right now, looks like a notebook. It's fine. Let's see, calls thrown damage. Yeah, the only thing that actually takes damage from snowballs is a blaze. It is hard-coded. Which is a bit short-sighted in my opinion, but I've been spending literal years grossly expanding how Minecraft affects and calculates anything, so of course it feels short-sighted to me that you just hard-code that one specific creature takes damage from a snowball. Of course it does. Of course it does. Okay, so 50-50 chance, we want to say that when it impacts something, it'll actually just drop an item. So, let's put that above the point where it destroys itself. Let's say, I mean, we could also just have it be like an arrow, so just 6 in the terrain, but a 50-50 chance. I kind of like that idea. I mean, it would look better, that's for sure. But mechanically, it would be more or less identical. For right now, we'll just say it's a 50 chance. So, actually, what happens if we don't do anything and we just make it a 50-50 chance that it removes? Is the arrow behavior built into projectile item? That's the question here. Let's have a look. Not that I'm seeing here. Not that I'm seeing. Let's see. It bites. It bites. This is furlable, but is an extension of projectile. Let's find out. Let's find out. Let's just leave this as is, more or less, and just get rid of that for a hot second. Tell our shuriken item to create a shuriken entity. Nope, it's well done player. Good. There is a setting the thrower. I know that's what it's trying to do. Living entity. And there's another thing here, which is basically just here is your position. I don't know. I think I genuinely don't know exactly what this is for. I don't know where it gets used. Let's have a look. Projector, dispenser, projectile dispenser. I think my brain combined two there. Okay. What are the entity types for... Sure, for snowballs. What details for that? Let's see, size 0.25 by 0.25. Tracking range 4. Yep, that's fine. Now what's your problem? Okay, that is good to go. We haven't attached rendering to it, but hopefully it'll be fine just hooking onto projectile item entity. Importantly, basically nothing will have changed on the face of it. What may have changed is how this handles when it hits something. And there is no rendering. There's no error log. Okay. I'm gonna have to look at needles, I think. Let's see. Needles and caltrops are like the major things here for how I got this working at all. Pity, but oh well. Oh, and this won't render the way it should. The needles are actual, like, joint textures. in the air. Do I need to worry about the rotation? It's probably fine. Yeah, it's probably fine. Alright, that should get rendering. Let's see if we've gotten Shuriken working within the first hour. First half hour, give or take, actually. Okay. We still can't see them. Interesting. Why is that happening? There's no error message. Let's actually have some data in here, shall we? And where's our German? Hey, where? Hey, sure, they were. It's not. It doesn't have the code to remove itself just yet, so it shouldn't have the problem of it's detecting impact with the shooter and immediately dying. We know we have the same details of here's everything working there, so no day work done for me. What we're going tonight? Well, tonight we are starting off with Shuriken, little throwing weapons, and then we are moving on to wagons to try and get them into a state where players actually have a dang reason to have a stable. But we'll continue work on that in about 10 minutes when I get back from my break. Sorry, Weber, you've popped in right at a break, but don't worry, I'll be back after this. Right, folks. This appears to be an occasion where, once again, Minecraft has some eccentricities, because it is not programmed well. And has been not programmed well by, like, generations of coders at this point. Which is just... all I think I'm missing is this line. That is it. There's not even anything specific to this class about this. It's just... you occasionally, with some entities, not all of them, but some, need to add this so that the system actually knows how to spawn something. Don't know why. Honestly, it's just bad construction, because I have to register an entity type anyways that should be able to do this, but... yeah. So the good news is we probably have fixed a visual issue that we hadn't even been able to encounter yet, but hopefully that is all I need to get this working. So our shuriken should spawn now. And while that boots up, let's talk about wagons. Why I'm excited for wagons. Firstly, they're very customizable. You can make them look however you like, which means they can fit in so many different environments. Secondly is, they're just a nice aesthetic, I feel. Having a nice wooden wagon rolling into town with a merchant supplies is so much more fun than some dude dropping out the sky with wings on his back and a whole ton of small boxes in the pockets. It's just, oof. Okay, can we... there we go. Okay. There is indeed our entity. Hooray. So there's a okay, so we're not removing anything, but they're removing anyway. So we can look up how, and there we go. We can look up how arrows work whenever they hit something, and see exactly what's going on there. Yay, projectile spawn. Good. And I can definitely change this to shuriken now rather than snowball. Okay. We are going to be working purely into entity shuriken now, I believe. And we need arrow entity. There you are. So these are abstract arrow entity, which themselves come out of projectile entity, whereas our shurikens come out of projectile item entity, which comes out of throwable entity, which comes out of projectile entity. Hopefully, there's not too much deviation between the two that we can't figure out what's going on here. So we should... Here's the question. How much time do we want to spend on this? Do we want it to be that they get stuck in the wall? I think that looks good. Or do we want it to be that they just hit the wall and occasionally either one, like A or B, they vanish or they drop an item? I'm not sure. Presumably, there is a distinction in here between when they hit an entity, yep, and when they hit something else. Collide with player, different thing. Hit ground sound, arrow hit. Block rate race results is presumably something fairly close. Let's see, where was that? That was above... that was below tick. Okay, cold when the arrow hits an entity. Presumably, this is cold when the arrow hits a block. So, for our shuriken, we can delineate which of these it is. So if result dot type, I think is what we're looking for. Get type, we're looking for block, and then we do something. for right now, it'll just do the same thing there. I think... Okay, no, there is a separated function. That is helpful. That is very helpful. Okay. That makes things much easier. It's not translated at all, but... Okay. So when that happens, we need to set a bit of data inside of our arrow entity. My keyboard's loud? Yup. What can I say? I like mechanicals. I do have some much quieter switches for it, but the last time I tried to install them, I destroyed the keyboard in the process. So haven't gotten around to ripping those out of the broken keyboard and trying to put them into this one, which, by the way, would also cost somewhere in the vicinity of about 200 quid. So if I broke it again, it's 400 quid. Oof. But okay, so we know there's a function in here for when it hits a block. Right there. Now waking warm enough to answer? Good at the moment? That's good to know. How am I? I am melting. Because it is very hot here in the UK currently. And to boot, I have free studio lights on me. I do have a fan going, which you can probably hear in the background a bit, but it is struggling. It is struggling to deal with all of the heat. Okay, where is that function? It's above that, above that. There it is. Okay. So it calculates where it should be, sets its position and motion accordingly. Sets if it's in the ground. I'm from Wales? Oh, the humidity must have been remote. I'm so sorry. Okay, more or less this whole thing is what we're looking for, so... just clone that for the moment. We can make it a bit more specific later. For instance, we don't have to care about shot from crossbow. Or most of these, actually. In block state is relevant. It will be relevant later, but not for right now. We are just looking for it to stop, essentially. And all of that looks good to me, otherwise, so let's give that a run. See what behavior that's changed. So it's checking where it should be, placing itself in that spot. And hopefully that should mean it just sticks in place. It won't be retrievable yet. But let's just see if it sticks in the wall. Well, it's trying. It doesn't understand that it's stuck in the wall just yet, and it's not retrievable, but hey, that's progress. Kind of entertaining to look, especially considering that these currently look like notepads. Okay. In ground, an important detail. I'm presuming that gets stored as well. Let's see. It's referenced a bunch. That's for sure. Yeah, gets stored. Important. Important. Let me just drag this over to my other monitor so I can see this. So this is just the long-term data storage for whenever the world or the chunk unloads that it's in. Fairly straightforward. Helps if I can spell. Additional is something else entirely. That's my meds. There we go. Okay, so now we have a persistent value that does that. Let's see. Next detail here. Critical appears, hit sound. All of that is definitely irrelevant. Arrow shake I don't think is a huge concern. That function just checks what, just clears the number of pierced entities it hits, which is presumably relevant for crossbows with piercing, but not for us. Let's see, the in block state. Let's see where that goes. Block state does not equal the block state at the block position. Okay, that is the thing where it figures out if it's still stuck in a wall or not. Which will be important. Okay. And let's see, we want to say if this.inBlock state does not equal block state, or block state dot is air, then this dot inGround equals false. Okay. We should also probably clear that, but if this there. Okay. This is definitely not finished, not final. This is mostly just tinkering. We'll see how it goes. Fit check. I'm currently under a shark. 1 second. So of course there's a squeamish. Alright. This is Blahaj. Notable LGBT rights activist Blahaj. I'll hop you there for a second, because you were getting it is toasty under the shark. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, there we go. Fairly simple outfit today, just staying cool. I do have the programmer socks on because of course they are mandatory for this workplace. We love IKEA Shark. We do love IKEA Shark. Okay. Right. We're not storing the block state currently. Hopefully that's fine. Okay, there's definitely still some code we're missing from arrows. Yeah, still not pick-upable. Retrievable, I guess, is the more precise way of saying not pick-upable, but yeah. There you go. Okay. There's a bunch of checking in the arrow code for block shape, which we will ignore wholesale for this exact moment. We don't care about arrow shape at all. What is that flag right there? No clip. That's not a concern. So if block state does not equal that, and whatever this means, in-ground has no collisions. Don't worry about that then. For the hot minute, at least. Else, if the world is not remote, then that ticks in ground. Okay, yes, that will be relevant, but that is not related to why this is currently moving around. Still. There's presumably a check to in-ground for something else. Let's see, mover. So if mover type does not equal self and that. Okay, that will be the part that's making this move. When it shouldn't be. So public void move. Let's see. If type in. My WASD hand, as it were, is currently under a shark, so there's a little awkward, Blage. Little awkward. Next time you come visit, I'm gonna have to get you your own laptop to sit on. We're not doing too much QA and QC on this. Okay, so if mover type does not equal self, and we're in the ground, then motion... Okay, this is the function it's calling, basically falsifies the in-ground part, and then sets our motion to be random, which is presumably what happens when it gets the block removed from under it. Interesting, interesting. Okay, I just shuffle you to there, please, thank you. Okay. This is a big, long thing that basically just amounts to in that direction-ish. Okay, yeah, you just call the ticket super. Good. Probably call set motion to null at this point, but just having a quick look through. There doesn't seem to be anything specifically in this related to motion when it's in the ground. Yeah, you'd think there would be, but there doesn't seem to be. There's checks in tick to make sure it's still in the ground. So it presumably runs this check, defaults that to false again, effectively meaning that as long as there's nothing guaranteeing in its tick the state that it's still in the ground, it's not, then that just gets set again inside of tick. Hum. Yeah, that's the best I can see. But for us right now, this is the only thing we actually care about. Theoretically, this will be cheaper than a bow and arrow. But slightly, well, significantly lower damage, slightly faster to use. Still sinking. Okay. I should definitely have the ticks in ground value just so these eventually go away. There's two different variables for this. There's time in ground and there's ticks in ground. Why is there two of these? Bizarre detail. Yeah. That is weird. Ticks in ground is involved in a lot of things. Time in ground appears up as near as I can tell. This functionary deals in ticks in ground, which is the thing that actually makes the arrows despawn after a while. But there is also time in ground, which is a protected value. There's no getter for it. Used for tridents and arrows. What does it do in those classes? Spawns potion particles. Okay, so that is purely... That must just be... Time and ground is greater than 4 del... Weirdness. Weirdness. That is... Why not just use ticks in ground? That's my curiosity. Okay. So there's the check that reinstates if the arrow is in the wall, as it were. Also, hey, fellow. How you doing? Solid 5.6 recurring out of 10. Yeah, that's good to know. How goes it? We have currently made notepad-shaped shuriken that we are attempting to get stuck in a wall. But very shortly we'll be moving on to working back on the wagons. Okay, get no clip is apparent. Yeah, that's actually part of... No clip is whether they have no clip or they're critical, apparently. Oh. Throwing paper stars, Gambit in Minecraft, not clickbait. Well, these are very metal. These are literally metal. Alright. That should make sure that is in ground stays steady, so it's now just a question of where does that interact with the motion? What is that doing? That's the one that makes it move again if something goes weird. Otherwise, that's the one that makes it despawn eventually. This, I think, refers to if something is wonky and it needs to fix it. That's where it gets set, initially at least. Stored. Fascinating. The arrow code is a complete mess, but... Not metaphorically metal? I mean, maybe if you put, like, some demon faces on it or something. I'm not modeling demon faces, that texture would be so deep. Oof. Interesting, just for comparison. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for these to stay stuck. But I'm having trouble identifying exactly what part of this actually does. And I'm guessing it is genuinely that it returns whether we're in ground or that is currently set to be no clip. Because critical is the same thing it was using to identify if indeed it should be. It's counted as no clip. If you're no clip, I'm pretty sure gravity turns off. That's probably what's happening. Where is set no clip come from? If anywhere here. Just the trident. But get no clip. Collide with player. Or that flag again. Yeah, that's just where it's getting picked up. I'm genuinely not seeing anything in here that makes its motion stop. Has no gravity. Is its own little thing. doesn't have no... If it has gravity and it's not no-clipped, then apply motion normally. Okay, gradually arcing downwards, providing us with our arc, as it were. Except, that bunks your code right there is entirely outside of the bunch of code that happens if it's stuck in a wall. So where exactly does this thing figure out that it shouldn't be moving currently? In ground. Block state does not equal the correct block state, and there's an error. Which say, I'm no longer in... I'm now in midair. Then we call that, which basically just clears the in-wall state, as it were. I will give these things more meaningful names in a hot second, because, well, it's horrifying having to type out func underscore numbers underscore letter underscore. Such a pain. Hey Muck, how you doing? Okay. Making a magic mod pack? Ooh. Have fun. There's its motion. Rotation, yeah, that's just tilting it slowly downwards. Does move get called in here somewhere? Does not appear to be. Okay. Reviews have fun, quests are easy but time-consuming and tedious. Tell me about it! One of the iterations of my patron server, patreon.com/lying, was called New Helena. And I used... oh boy. Fun fact, I found out there's a mod that heavily inspired the creation of various oddities and various equipment and all the other various mods, called Custom NPCs. It is really good. It's a great mod, but it needs optimization like fish need water. Like, it has so many great features in it that are magnificent and really well, and they mesh with most mods really well. But when you use them en masse, they are extremely laggy, and they're very tedious to set up. So it's ruinous. I spent so much time on New Helena, and I had a thing of I'm gonna try and add like a new quest every week, that kind of thing, like just the one or two, and it's like that quickly ended up nowhere because I did not have the energy to do that every week. In addition to everything else I was doing, it was oof, heinous. Okay, is there anything in Arrow Entity? Just potions, I'm seeing. empty state. But that's just showing up particles. Okay. If the fish need water and you have none, genetically modify them to have lungs. Well, that's what I did. That's what the oddities are. We are currently working on shuriken, throwing stars, ninja throwing stars, if you want to call them that. And we are currently trying to figure out how arrows stick in the wall without just succumbing to gravity soon after. Because right now, they do. And we want them to not. Because we love the mental image of shuriken being stuck in a wall after you throw them. Hello, set velocity. Where's that getting called? In here at all. It's client side only. I think that's just an override. Nothing particularly valuable there. Somewhere in this code is the thing that makes arrows not fall to the ground. Not Minecraft? Oh, this is Minecraft. Believe it or not, this is Minecraft. Et voila, a Minecraft. But this is a mod for Minecraft. And quite a few things are added by this mod. Looking for the arrow block interaction in the code. Exactly. Because right now, our shuriken just do this. They stop. Oh, that one teleported, apparently. But they don't really stick like that. And that's what I'm trying to get them to do. Because it's way cooler than just having them pop off a shuriken when they hit. But I'm having trouble finding the code that actually causes that to happen, because clearly something here is weird. And we have time in ground, which appears to be a client-side function only. We have ticks in ground, which is the thing that makes them despawn after 1200 ticks. We have in ground and in block state, which relate to, am I currently stuck in a block, and if so, what was that block? But I haven't found exactly where that relates to the motion just yet. Okay, in block state does get stored. Which we might as well put in here. We could theoretically extend out of abstract arrow entity, but that would bring a whole ton of baggage that we don't need. That stores it. So what is the part in here that's making this actually, like, not move? It's not moving left or right, not moving up, but it is moving down, which suggests that gravity is still working on it somehow. That is the only reference to gravity itself, so it ain't that. There's definitely nothing inside of the arrow that's causing that. There's no calls to the motion, as near as I can tell. Yeah, there's nothing that would make it slow down or anything. This only gets cool when it stops being inside of the ground. Tis a mystery, as near as I can tell. Critical does seem to store some data, but it's mainly... It's basically a bit mask. Doesn't seem to relate back to it. No clip is referenced, sets if this arrow can no clip. But it is only referenced on collision. It does also affect its collision things, but it's just... Nothing seems to relate to the velocity. Which is weird. I can't see in here why arrows behave the way they do. Could it be a block state rather than the arrow itself? The block state is stored, is the thing. I think for at least the moment I'm going to try and cheat the hell out of this. Because there is a boolean inside of entity that checks whether or not they have no clip or whether they have gravity, so we're just gonna override that for a hot minute. So has no gravity, we're just gonna say either the super version or we're in the ground currently. And hopefully that'll mean that they stay where they're supposed to be. Because I've spent more time than anticipated on this so far today. Here's all this humidity. Okay, they're still moving around a bit. Or those ones are. These ones are looking pretty good. Look at that. Oh, they're also despawning, which is what they're supposed to be doing. Hooray. Okay, and if I chuck these into a block, like so, and get rid of that, it goes back down. Good. Hurrah! Hurrah! Okay. We did it, we did it! It's probably a hacky way that's going to come back to bite me, but we did it. You could probably do throwing darts with the same mechanism. We have throwing darts, actually. We just call them needles. Needles are very fun to work with, actually. Let's have a look at them real quick. So throwing darts are cheap, fast, not as fast as a snowball, but they're meant to hurt. They don't currently do that because we haven't added that, but hurt. Stack to 6, that kind of thing. Needles We have bone needles, which inflict the status effect of needled, which makes you drop a corpse, rather than just despawning in a cloud of particles. We also have iron needles, and I think bone needles are the only ones you can actually throw, like so. They don't stick into the wall like that, because they're just bones. But if you have yourself a blowpipe, then you can shoot them with way higher speed, much greater range, like so. And also, this is their particular bonus. If you have any potion in your offhand whenever you're shooting them, then you can actually add the potion to the needle. Not for very long, but it's basically unlimited potion. It's not like compared to the full alchemy routes, where we actually have vials that you can do for various things. So, vial of acid, for instance, is very dangerous. We talked about that earlier today. But a big goal of this mod is to make combat in Minecraft way more interesting and diverse than it is in vanilla. So, if you go the alchemy route, you can have all sorts of things. We have holy water, we have antitoxin, we have alchemist's fire, we have acid, we have all sorts of things. We have flash pellets to momentarily daze people. Like, there's a bunch you can do with alchemy that's really fun. We also have daggers that are really quick, but they have a shorter attack range. We have glaives that are slow, powerful, but also have greater reach than a sword. We have so much going on here. There's a lot to enjoy. Down here, we have caltrops, which if you throw them, they will stick to the floor. And then if somebody walks into them, they take a little bit of damage, but they also get hit with slowness momentarily. They also bounce, which is really fun. We have the needles I've just mentioned. We have the crossbow here, the repeating crossbow, which has a fairly complicated recipe, but you get to stack a number of arrows into it. So you can do a whole ton there. You don't have to reload it every single time, necessarily. Then there's the short bow, which draws faster than the regular bow, but doesn't shoot as far. And the blowgun you have seen. So there's a lot of combat options here that I have spent a while just... Ow. Love the flags in the inventory? Oh yeah, we've got flags up the wazoo. All the flags. Well, a lot of the flags. Not every flag. But, yeah. All of these. I would put in the inclusive flag, but the pixel resolution is not great, so... What about pugilist options? You mean fighting with your bare hands? I think that's just regular Minecraft. We do have an ability in various oddities to deal, called Unarmed Strike, which lets you deal non-lethal damage, which doesn't kill people, but it will knock them the hell out, which is handy. But it is not currently available by default. Also, ow. Ow, ow, ow. Let's see. There we go. But yeah, something like 12, like a dozen or so acid vials will destroy iron armor, a full set of iron armor. We tested that, because of course we did. Oh yeah, we have scarecrows. Oh, also bats poop. I don't know if I mentioned that, but bats poop now. That is necessary for making gunpowder. Wasn't there a mod that did that? Options to increase the punch damage. We do have the strength ability, which does that, but not so much in terms of equipment here. Anyways, I will be back in about 10 minutes, and we'll get to work on the wagons, because our wagons need some work. But yeah, catch you in 10. Right, everybody, welcome back to the last hour of our evening today, and we are going to be doing a little bit on wagons. Now, there is a lot of work that has already gone into wagons. There is 803 lines in this entity class by itself. For comparison, the navigator that I made in Space Engineers that can make a small drone go from any 2 points on a globe is 1,000. So this is a significant piece of just actually functioning as an intelligent creature right here. The goal with wagons or carts, I go back and forth between what I call them, generic middle-age fantasy conveyance, I guess, wheeled conveyance. The objective with this is to be a multiplayer, and as well as large cargo contraption that will actually be able to take things where you need to go. Horse-drawn. I might expand that to be other things, but for right now, horse-drawn. Bleh. Very straightforward. You can get wheels onto this thing. You do need a crowbar to remove them. But you craft the wheels, you craft the wagon chassis, as it were, and where you right-click changes where they go. Like so. You can mix and match. They don't all have to be the exact same thing. I definitely need to make it so that it doesn't shift you into that. But bleh. And there should be 3 seats. A boat has 2. It stands to reason to me that this should have 3, at least. So that would be the back seat, the actual driver's seat, and one off to the center of the driver. Because it's nice to sit next to people on a ride, that kind of thing. And where you click on this thing should indicate where you're going to sit. Much like how we just right-clicked on the actual correct axle and the wheel went there. The wheels are animated, but they're not properly animated at the moment, so they go more or less whichever direction they want rather than the direction of actual travel. That is a thing I can fix, just not right now. It'll take me an age, it's extremely trivial, that kind of thing. Here we can see how I actually make it know which part of it you're clicking on, because otherwise it would take some very complicated vector math to tell. So these are where all of the wheels go, and I can actually pop all of these off. Plop. And it drops to the floor, which is a nice little detail, I feel. There is also another one, a little one down there. That one is the collision of the floor of the wagon. So consequently, that one is actually solid, much like a boat, or a minecart as such, or a shulker under certain circumstances, so we can actually step on top of it. The log going across the front here is not solid. The reason for that is, if we look at our horse just sort of rotating here, you notice that that box stays perfectly aligned to the grid, even though that blue line, which indicates where he's facing, is continually moving around. Minecraft doesn't have a concept of rotating bounding boxes. So consequently, when this wagon is at a different rotation, let's see, merge, entity, that one, and let's say rotation 45 F0. No? What do you mean no entity was found? It's right there. Yeah, you literally gave me its ID. That's a weirdness. I wonder how that's happening. But yeah, if I rotated this thing 45 degrees, its collisions would still be exactly the same orientation, even though they no longer aligned with the actual thing. So I would love to go through and actually give Minecraft a concept of a rotating and bounding box, but that code is so intensely deep, so ingrained in Minecraft, that I'm not entirely certain it would be able to contemplate. I would have to code so much to make it have the slightest concept of what it was actually trying to do. So yeah, for the most part, that's not happening. But I can happily shove these on. Bleh. So there's that. You can see it actually got the main bounding box, the white one there, actually got taller when I did that, which is nice. Don't know where an egg came from on this map, but bleh. Probably something to do with you guys, I'm guessing. This unfortunate fellow, by the way, is a scarecrow that got struck by lightning. Yeah, because that's a feature I figured had to happen. Ha! Right. So, let's start fairly simply by just making it determine which seat of the wagon you want to be going in based on where you right-click on it. I think. What we are going to later be doing is having actual chests in here, and I'm thinking it's going to be at least a double chest worth of space. Possibly more, because the more cargo you can carry in this thing, the greater the value of the wagon. You can have, as a player, effectively a little more than a little more than a double chest's worth of inventory space that you can stuff full of shulker boxes at that point. Who cares how much space you have at that point? By that point, it's basically the wealth of a small kingdom. But on a horse, it's not very much. On the best of donkeys, it's less than a single. It's less than a single chest. It's a bit ridiculous, really, honestly. You can increase it significantly by having llamas. But the llamas themselves don't have very much, and you're dragging a whole chain of them. Like, that's a recipe for disaster just waiting to happen. So, having a wagon that is substantially more durable, pulled by a horse that can be as fast as you can possibly make it, be a big, resource hauler is, I think, the best of options. So, yeah. And also, it just looks nice. Like, this, the textures on this one are slightly animated, but it just looks nice. Let's get the oak out. I'm personally a pine kind of fan, but, yeah. There we go. Oak. Let's get this dark oak, please. Why not? Whoop. Whoop. I would like to have this actually recognize unevenness, but the calculations for that would get wonky. Yeah, if I just turn on the bounding boxes, you can see they haven't moved. It is the exact same orientation. They're just shuffled around. The calculations for where those extra ones go that determine what you're clicking on, those do rotate properly. So those are always tied to the model. But everything else gets real out of line real quickly. It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate. But it means I can actually stand at the back here, which is, nice. Okay, so clicking on this determines where you're going to sit. That is a thing that we need to figure out. Yeah, because right now the only seat you can actually access is here, where it would be nice to be able to sit on the back, if you just want to do like a YouTuber intro or some such. Now, there's two major ways that we can figure that out. The first is how everything else here has been done so far, which is these moving boundary boxes. So we stick one about here, and we say that one is where you click if you want to sit on the actual driver's seat, and then one off to the side if you want to be the navigator, and then one at the back here if you want to be just sitting on the back. That's one way we can do this, and so far this is pretty effective. I think you'll find. Another option is that we base it based on where on the overall model you click, which is a bit more complicated, but conceivably doable. I quite like actually doing this, so I think we're going to go with that methodology. Fairly straightforward. So, let me see, how do we want to do this? This should be... We'll start by adding just the one in the middle of here. Just like that. 3 minutes of witch voice? You've asked for 3 minutes of witch voice when I have been streaming for 140 minutes already. Fine. Okay. Well, thank you for that bit of torture, Asper. I'm sure nothing will go wrong whatsoever by me attempting to put on a voice when I am already quite hoarse. Well, that's a horse. I'm just a lion. Alright. So, we already have quite a few components here, and we're going to be mapping them as actual seats, which means we need a new part type. So let's call that our seat. And we are going to ask for predicates, always false, which I believe exists. Yes. So no item will ever be received to that, which is fine, because it's not technically a component. I feel like redeeming the Ara is a little bit, a little bit irrelevant on the basis of I'm already talking like this. But, if you want to hear the witch say Ara, there you have it. Alright, so, component seat 0. Let's populate that, shall we? Well, I hope that was worth your bits. Well, your points, really. I should make some kind of pact with Twitch so we can actually get some benefits out of that, but oh well, they simply make you pay all of this time and effort, and I get not a cent from it. Isn't that nice? AI is still hiding things till I type, but they are very much there. I believe that's somewhere in the config. I'm sure someone's had that problem already. I should break this down a little bit since it is rather convoluted at this stage. There. Now that will add a brand new wagon palette entity, right-clicking on which will do basically nothing at this exact moment, but I'm sure we can figure it out. Welcome, Lucian and the ghosts, I see. Hope you had a very nice stream. You're coming in just on the tail end of me having to do witch voice for 3 minutes, so hope you enjoyed that. Ah, witch voice right at the end of a stream as is. Oy. Okay, tonight, to catch everyone up who's just joined in, we have programmed the majority of shuriken to make them throw a ball, have a cooldown, stick in the wall, and we are now working on wagons so that we can actually have multiple seats that you can actually decide which one you want to be sat in. Which voice? That voice. Alright. Oh god, crime voids. Right, so we have a new seat. It's not going to be positioned properly. We can fix that later on, fairly swiftly though. And now we need to actually have it do things. Let's see, we don't need to worry about has part in slots. That's fine. Oh, I forgot we can set it on fire. Only if the material of its components is flammable though. So let's see, where... Target inventory, that's fine. Multiple identity, yes, of course. Update component boundaries. We won't be needing to change the shape of the of the seats, that's for sure. Update component parts. There we are. Okay. So, set part position. Component seat 0 is our driver's seat. So we want axle front, and I think that's more or less it, actually. I don't think it needs to move anywhere else. It could theoretically stand to move up a little bit. But that's about it, I think. Yeah. Right, so that should give us a new bounding box on our wagon. Let's have a look. Checked out a new game which majors you called Zell. Wrote an A4 page worth of feedback for it. Okay. I do know that there has been some poor some poor, like, what's the phrase here, PR manager or some such that's been trying to get in touch with me for like a month. Oh, I'm so sorry. Purely for a new game coming out that unfortunately came out today, which was the day I finally got to replying to him. Oof. Okay, there we are. That is a brand new seat object. Now there is a problem, which you can maybe make out, which is that on this particular sizing of it, and with this particular orientation, we now can't actually reach the object there for actually leashing our horse to this. So I might want to recede it a little bit, or more specifically, I probably want to downsize it some. Say like 0.5. And when we right-click that, we want to actually sit at seat 0, as it were. Let's see, component E does not equal null. Get passengers, yeah, there we go. That should probably be an else. Probably explains why it's been having trouble. There. Can I ask for your support for the Great Cheese Raid of Missouri? He was going to have been storing cheese for decades and we're at about 4.4. Oh, right, the cheese mines! Or the cheese vaults, rather. I'd forgotten about those. God, yes, that is... That old story, Jesus, yeah. Oof. Okay. If get passengers size is lower than 3, and player does not equal get placeholder. So what we want to do is get the player to start riding, but we need to know exactly where, like which player, or which slot of us you're going into. Update passenger. There you are. Index. Get passenger index. There you go. Now, can we specifically set which one they become? That is the question here. I know if you hop out of a boat, I'm pretty sure the people behind you shuffle forward, for instance. Cheese Run just makes me remember the Area 11 raids. The Area 11 raids. The Area 51 raid and how much I regret not pushing to go to it. I wouldn't have gone. It seemed like a very specific kind of person who went to it. Okay, private and final. Right. So I can remove passengers. I can't choose to sit at certain positions. Okay. So... how do I particularly... How do I make sure that a person clicking on a certain thing gets into a particular seat? I may just have to override all record of this. Because get passengers goes through a lot. Actually, if I go to get passengers, if I just replace that, that gets most of this. But add a passenger is a different thing. Can fit passenger, that part's fine. I think add passenger. There we go. So we could make a separate passenger list and have where you click on the wagon cause that to actually cause you to slot into a specific part of that list. I would just have to override a bunch of stuff. So if we're server side and it's an instance player and the controller passenger is not a player, then add it to 0 specifically. You bump the list and become in control. Okay. Yeah, I think we just have to create our own personal thing. Yay. Oh yeah, this is this is the code. I think I discussed this on Twitter. Move entities on top of this entity. So in Sea of Thieves is a decent example. When you're stood on a ship and the ship's moving around on the world, you move with the ship. That's an integral part of Sea of Thieves. It is also a major question when it comes to complex entity interactions inside of video games, because if, for example, we are bringing along a llama on a leash, or let's say we're taking a pig to market with our wagon. We have a lead that is attached to our pig. We are then standing on our wagon, but the pig isn't yet, and then somebody, like the person driving the wagon, is a bit quick on the door and starts taking off. Theoretically, we should move with the wagon because we are currently stood on the wagon. What happens then to the pig? Does the pig get dragged with us? Or do we get, dragged, does the wagon just come out from underneath us? Next question, given that wagons have to be pulled by horses, if the horse of another wagon gets on top of gets into another wagon, and that wagon moves, possibly because it's colliding with their wagon, what happens then? Well, the answer in testing right now is they shoot off into the horizon, because their interactions are causing them to continually propel one another. It's a lot. It's a lot to think about. The pig gets dragged along like a red-headed stepchild, I guess. Okay. Passengers does not seem to be referenced, or it doesn't seem to be stored by any means. At least not as far as I can see. Write without type ID calls it. Yeah, we mainly just need to know that we can act. We mainly just need to be able to actually actively say, I want to go to this seat. So is it a living entity list or not? List of entity. Okay. Right. And then over at updating our passengers, somewhere, I've lost it. There we go. We return hours. So then we can say that when we want to add a passenger, we can actually then give it an index. And we will do most of the same things that happen here. Yeah. Oh, Espa has redeemed Dob. I'm guessing for Blahaj here. Blahaj has only flippers. They're not really meant to, like... Let's see. Oh. There you go. There's your shark Dob. Okay. Let's tidy this up real quick. Okay. So, if world is remote, passenger is an instance of player entity, and controlling passenger is not, I think what we want to change that to is if the entity in that seat is not a player entity. So let's see, entity current equals get passengers dot get index multiply that so it actually is always 0, 1, or 2. Okay, so if they're not, if the seat is empty, if the person, if the creature in the seat is dead, or the creature is not a player entity, then player gets dibs. I'm surprised the is remote check doesn't get fired if they're not a player like that, though. But okay, right. So now we just need to know the index of our seat. Hopefully. Component boundaries is fine, we don't need to worry about that. Where, oh where, there you are, okay. We can also now change that, don't you worry about it. Okay, so we need to find the index of the seat. I could check the slot for it, I suppose. Yeah, I think that would work. So if I say 0, 1, and 2, okay, and we need to actually position those. set part position. Seat 1, we'll have at the front. And we'll move it slightly off to the left. As well as add our wheel offset. Glad I didn't make these things capable of having, what's the phrase here? Pitch. Okay, so that puts the driver's seat directly at the front, the navigator seat off to their left, and then we need the passenger seat, I guess we'd call it, at the rear on the right. I hope. Let's find out. And well, there's the seat positions actually. We should be able to calculate those. 0.5 for the rear stoop. 0.9 for the other seat. Okay. In theory, I could actually just change these specifically to the positions of those components, which would make things a little easier as well, but for right now, I'll leave it as is. Where is interact? There you are. And we want to say add passenger player to the components index. There. Let's see. Tidy this up a little bit. So if the seat is empty, or whoever's in it is dead, then we can happily go there. Otherwise, if the wall is server side and they're a player and what's there isn't a player, then bleh. We probably want to make sure there's always free slots there, I think. I think that should work to make sure it's always within the boundaries. There. Because by default that'll be an empty list. So it will have 0 entries. So trying to get something up, like, let's say index 2, will create an out of bounds exception, it'll crash the game. Which I think get or default is a thing that exists in lists, I'm not sure. Depends on the language you're using. Okay. So this should have created an additional 2 seats. Yep, 1 there. I don't see the others. I only see the one back here. Oh, I think it's embedded in here. That's why I can't see it. I think. Or that might just be that. Okay, never mind. It's that one for sure. I think it's just embedded in the wood, so I can't really see it. If I click on you? No? Does seem to be having some... Oh, there was a problem, alright. Use X to start riding, not Y add passenger. Right. This is a thing that Minecraft is causing. I see. Yeah, it's entirely on me. Right, gotcha. I'm just going to increase the height of the seats a little bit, just so I can actually see them a little clearer. But hey, good news is we're getting there. Bad news is we're failing. Passenger.get riding entity does not equal this, because it needs to start riding. Okay. What is the difference? I guess is the next question. Okay, so the answer is it has to go through all of this nonsense first. So we probably need to get a little bit more convoluted. Butts. More convoluted butts. Because we need to call all of that, and then call our modified add passenger with the index. Because that code doesn't know it exists. But can we see the seats? Yes, we can. Okay, so they were just hiding in the wood there. Good, good, good. That's kind of the opposite sides than I was anticipating for these, but I think they're okay. So that is driver's seat, that is navigator seat, and that is the stoop at the back. For passenger, I guess. And then later on, when you right-click this thing with chests, we'll add storage here. I think it'll probably be a mix of chests and barrels and stuff, but it'll be the same inventory content. And then what we can say then is we put actual more component parts on top of those, and right-click on those accesses that specific inventory. So you can say, oh, it's in the wagon in the chest on the right, for instance. Also, this is getting very messy, but this is a thing that Minecraft allows for, because Minecraft is the part that made the multi-part entities. I am just using them to their fullest potential. Thankfully, they don't lag. Not much, at least. But okay. How quickly can I override all of that? So it's doing all of this. Alright. Here's to hoping that I can actually make this work properly without needing to do any funkiness. Any huge funkiness anyways. This is going to require me to do... There's easier ways for me to do this, I think. But right now, at least I'm gonna give this a shot, because the other ways I can do this mostly involve mixing. Which can be very finicky, and even harder to explain. So let's see, in the case of this code, entity in is us. It's probably easier if I made this actually be static. That's mostly correct, except that writing entity is private, and can be written is protected. Oh, that's a pain in the neck. That means I am going to have to do some sneakery to get this to work properly. Drat, so close. Start writing... Yeah, defaults to false. Okay, good. So we need to fix these, but that's not visible, and neither is that, so it's going to be a pain in the neck. Is there a setter for that? Is there somewhere I can say... Start? No, it's literally just start writing. I can retrieve it with get writing entity, but I can't set it. Ooh. But if I can do the right stuff to get that working, then I will be able to say this player should be sat into this specific slot. The other alternative is I give up on that. I have a map of slots you've recently clicked on, and when you come to be added as a passenger, I just automatically shove you into that specific slot. That would involve much less shenaniganry. I wonder if that's the best option. Probably is, but we don't have time to implement it just tonight. So, I will call it to an end for this evening. Hope you've enjoyed so far. Yeah, that is wagons. They're complicated as all hell, but I think they're ultimately going to be very, very tremendously worth it. And hey, we got to add the majority of shotguns tonight as well. I hope you've enjoyed. My next stream will be on Thursday with, I believe, Lucy, who might still be in chat. Who knows? and I will be setting up some more automated drone-powered mines, as well as possibly a shipping route, we'll see. And then I have a special stream coming this Thursday, which you might have heard about. I can't imagine how. It's not like it's in my Twitter username right now. And then I'll be back on Saturday for some carousel with the patrons, probably talking about what happened on that stream. Otherwise, we'll be back next week for more of this, and everything, any videos I make are over at youtube.com/lyingtube, and everything I do is powered by you at patreon.com/lying. Hope you've all enjoyed, pardon me, blah hard, so I can get to my stream deck, thank you very much. And I'll catch you all as ever next time. Oh, God, you're cuddly.